So, as I was getting ready to do this, I had a topic in mind, and my intention was to um, bring you something peaceful and uplifting and hopefully inspiring. Um, but in this last week, I have not been peaceful. So I was having this big struggle, like sitting down and trying to get into that space and deliver this message. And I know I say this a lot. Like, I think I'm supposed to be this calm Buddha all the time, especially here. And I just wasn't. And then the answer appeared, and it's very simple. Be what I am. And what better place to do that than here? So, um, we are going to practice. If you were here and you saw the screensaver, which I will share in just a minute, we are going to practice in real time witnessing, being authentic, taking off this mask, this veneer that I think I'm supposed to present to everyone, depending on the situation. Um, so I am in a turmoil of rage and grief, and that is how I'm showing up today. And maybe I should say why. Why am I so full of rage and grief? There's this enormous storm that came through and has created havoc in so many states for so many people, destruction that it'll take years to recover from, lives lost. And I am devastated by that. And I'm full of rage at whether blame is deserved or not, but people who make decisions who have created this unstable environment that we live in now, and feeling like this will just continue until we collectively decide not to trash the environment anymore. So it's this sort of helpless feeling of rage and grief. And what do I do with that? I'm going to share the screensaver again so you get a chance to see it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Hopefully you're seeing an image of a card right now. It says, "Witness, I am fully seen." So I've been thinking about storytelling a lot because I wrote this book. Some of you have heard of it. Joe mentioned it. And some of you know that it's a collection of stories. And it's from women who received a scholarship from the program that I work for, which is for survivors of domestic violence who are going to school. And what I did, my process for this was to interview the volunteers, which meant that I ended up climbing into their stories with them, really kind of living their stories with them as they told them. And it was hard. It was very difficult. And at the same time, what I noticed is how generously they shared their stories and how honored I was to receive them. It was like receiving a precious gift. And all I did was listen, and their words just poured out. So that's why I wanted to talk about witnessing and being fully seen. This is a card from Megan Watterson's Mary Magdalene Oracle. I'll show you the box there. And it's an image of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. And what I want you to notice, maybe you already have, is that they're not doing anything. They are simply standing there and gazing at each other. They're not reaching out. There's no words. They just are there, witnessing eye to eye. And there's a passage from the little companion book that I want to read to you, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. "Mary," Christ says when he sees her at the empty tomb, And in hearing her name and his voice, Mary immediately recognizes who is standing before her. Rabboni, Mary exclaims. They stand then for a timeless moment together, face to face, seeing and being seen. It's a miracle and a mystery, what allows one person to truly see another. The reciprocity of this full vision of seeing and being seen by another is sacred and graced. You can't force yourself to see someone entirely for all that they are. It's a moment that exists in soul time, kairos. And the reciprocity of this full vision requires that we reveal our truest self. We can't be fully witnessed by someone, by a beloved, unless we are fully revealing all that we are. It's a rare and holy moment. It's a diamond that's finally been made visible after years and years of pressure in the dark. And so there's a few words I want to elaborate on. I'll stop this share. The first is reciprocity. That's the one that struck me. And that giving and receiving are linked. You have to have both. A giver has nothing if there's no one to receive that gift. And we see this in the third part of our meeting. It's like a circular sort of cooperative action. Some speak and some listen. And I think a lot of times we forget how important the listener is. The listener is holding that container, is bearing witness. And that's why Joe talks about crosstalk, taking care not to comment or advise or ease someone's pain. If you think back to that image, Mary and Yeshua are standing sovereign. They are not entwined. They are together, but they are separate. And sometimes, it's hard to hear. As I said in the stories, it's difficult to listen to someone else's pain and not provide advice or not try to comfort them. And a lot of times, like if I want to say something or make a move in some way, it's really about my own uncomfortability. So it's important to tune in to my own self and think, like, curious, why? Why am I feeling this sort of jumpy need to rush in there? But it's so important to allow each person to have ownership of their experience. And I really feel like it even has to do with a feeling of safety. I feel safe because I know nobody's going to come in here and try to fix me. In the scholarship program that I work for, we operate on the assumption that each person knows best what is good for them. They are experts in their own lives. And I like that myself. I have autonomy over my own life, and I don't like it when unsolicited advice is offered. I feel safe when I know I can say whatever is on my mind, whether or not it's unreasonable, and nobody's going to try to tell me any differently. To be fully seen requires vulnerability and a willingness to strip the masks. And that's what happened for me while I was prepping for this meeting. I was like such a struggle. Like do I show up in my kind of, just personal hurricane? And the answer was real simple. Yeah. Yes, I do. Because it's important to me to be fully seen. Being in this group has helped me step forward in so many ways. And it is because I am held carefully in this group. I also want to point out the diamond made visible comment. That, of course, made me think of Joe's famous jar. Wish I had a little, image to shake up and show you, but it's probably burned into your memory banks. And also Thomas Merton's quote, we make ourselves real by telling the truth. I feel like that making ourselves real, to me, that means like, stop faking it. Stop pretending. And then the phrase years of pressure in the dark, that made me think of alchemy. Um, that is the crucible where you're uh, crushing something under enormous pressure and enormous heat, and it transforms into something rare, valuable, beautiful, um, precious. So those were the comments I had about that image. And again, I feel that the level of vulnerability it requires to see and be seen can't just happen anywhere. In fact, it's, that passage that I read, it's no accident. You can't force it. It takes a sacred space. And we have created a sacred space here. I gave Joe the idea and then he ran with it. He created at Loose Leaf Hollow a space for grace out of an intention. And that intention manifested into what is Loose Leaf Hollow. So it shows you how powerful intentions can be. And I think that Loose Leaf Hollow has translated to this online meeting. This is a space for grace. To me, it's a huge mystery. Intentions go so far and then you have to let the rest happen. So we already have a sacred container, but I want to share with you something I learned recently about creating a sacred space. And this is going to be a super short share because after I walk you through this, we're going to go directly into our sit. And I'm actually really happy about that because since I am so fired up, sitting quietly has been difficult. And doing that in your company will probably help me. So I'm going to do a little background information before I really start walking you through the steps. If anybody wants to, readjust, you can do that now. You can take a minute afterwards too. No hard and fast rules here. But about a week or so ago, I was at a conference in Chicago, and one of the options was to choose a session on creating a sacred container. And so I picked that because why wouldn't I? It was hosted by an organization of Native Hawaiian people called Pohana Ona Wahine, which means Pillars of Women. A pohana is the center pole in a traditional Hawaiian structure. And without that center pole, that structure won't stand. And so the question they asked us is, who is your pohana? Who is your pillar? So that's sort of the premise of their whole organization. Wahine is woman, so it's called Pillars of Women. And the facilitators walked us through their practice of setting up a sacred container. And to me, it was really not only miraculous and mysterious, but also a privilege. Here we were, these professionally attired people at some conference, strangers, and there was a transformation that happened in that room. And I have a lot of gratitude to Indigenous cultures for holding on to their practices and then sharing them. These are practices that colonizers like my own ancestors tried to erase. So I'm deeply grateful because I think that they hold so much wisdom that may save us if we allow ourselves to use it. So I'm going to talk about the practice now. What they did is had us stand up and we made a circle. And then we all held hands, but it was specific that your right hand faced up and your left hand faced down, so that when you were holding hands with each other, one hand was receiving and one hand was giving. So it's this thread of energy, of reciprocity, of giving and receiving that connected all of us, which reminded me of Joe's sign, not to. And so if you want to, you can start to envision that now. You can think about, we can't physically hold hands, but you can really think about receiving with that right hand and giving with that left hand, and think about that energy flowing through and the connection that we all have here. And then what we did was introduced ourselves with our names, said where we are from to remind ourselves of the connection with the land. And then we brought in the name of an ancestor or someone that we wished to bring into the circle. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Jill. I'm from the North Carolina coast. This is the land of the Catawba, the Lumbee, and the Waccamaw tribes. Today, I bring the Dark Mother in the form of Mary Magdalene, who is an archetype of destruction, transformation, and rebirth. I also bring water, which is a symbol of, and I came prepared, a symbol of the destruction of Mother Nature and the flooding in the North Carolina mountains. Water is also cleansing, as in tears of grief. And I bring fire, symbolizing fury and rage, fierce grace. Fire is also cleansing and purifying. It strips things down to their bare bones. And now you can hold these images in your heart if they suit you. We'll stop the recording now, and I'll alert you to when it's time to transition to the next phase.